Here, I'm here. I'm here.
I'm here, Mark.
Hey, Mark Cavell, are you hearing us?
Yeah, Martin Tasker, I can hear you. And
Good.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Mark Cavell, Peter, you hearing me okay?
Peter, I can hear you loud and clear.
You're good, you're nice and crisp.
Kia ora and welcome to Auckland, the city of sails in New Zealand, which is hosting the 4th stopover in the 2011-2012 Volvo Ocean Race. A regular feature in past Whitbread and Volvo Ocean races, it's been 10 years since the city hosted the fleet, but none of the excitement and enthusiasm has worn off. Spectators and well-wishers by the thousand lining vantage points on and off the water to welcome the sailors from the sea when they arrived just a week ago. Leg 4 of the Volvo Ocean Race tested the teams in every way, drifting away at dawn from the start in Sanya, China, but within hours they were being battered by big seas generated by a monsoon storm that had held them in port for an extra 18 hours. For nearly a week the teams suffered as they headed east, searching for conditions that would allow them to turn south towards New Zealand.
A little bit of waves around and don't want to get average, but you know, all usual.
Spanish-Kiwi collaboration Camper led the fleet around the southern tip of Taiwan. Frank Camis's Groupama in hot pursuit, but aboard Puma it was decision time for Ken Reid and tactician Tom Addis.
We had a northerly breeze and we had to deal with what we had, and that was the only logical route, to be honest with you.
Puma make the bold decision not just to split from the group, but to head directly away from their destination.
New Zealand's down there. Japan's that way. Taiwan's there. Did I mention New Zealand's down there?
Alone in the north, Puma continue to bash their way upwind, praying their gamble will pay off. Mar Mostro's big gains in the north soon became a headache for the leaders of the pack. Groupama and Camper needed to snuff out the American challenge, and fast.
We adjusted our route towards the north relatively early on, but we couldn't have waited any longer and we committed to it. So we headed north looking for the wind, while Camper kept a middle-ish line. I remember very well what happened. It was night and we were reaching 5 or 6 miles behind Camper, and we fought at 20-odd degrees, while Camper maintained on the same line with the wind they had.
But Camper's threat was about to implode.
7 try. Not too sure, mate. Sounds like J2's bits.
We broke our J2 in half. What happened was the tack rope on it broke that held it down at the front. Then it skies up the forestay and the angle gets too much for it. So literally broke it in half. It's the sail we should be on, so we've been dropping 6 miles as scared.
Groupama are first to hit the northeast trade winds, establishing a stranglehold on the lead with the whole fleet now in fire hose conditions.
Hopefully it'll blow us up our shortly. As you can feel, boat's going pretty fast. On the edge.
Approaching the doldrums, the boats are constantly on the edge. Puma doubled.
The jib took off to the moon at 100,000 miles an hour and tore in half.
Heading for the Solomons, east was the preferred route, but for the trio in the west, the prevailing breeze dictated that simply wasn't an option.
For us to have traded that to go where Puma and Groupama were, we'd have made a massive, massive loss. So really you're stuck with that at that stage.
But there was no catching Groupama, on course to become the first team to win a leg other than Telefonica in this edition of the race. Victory surely a formality.
I was upstairs trimming the mainsail when I saw that the bow was behaving a little bit strange, like the boat was digging into the water a bit more than normal. So I went downstairs to have a look in the bow and discovered that we had a lot of water in the bow.
Groupama first to receive a rapturous City of Sails welcome, displacing Camper for second overall.
We can say that we arrived in the Mecca of sailing, and being the first ones was a fantastic moment for us. We knew the welcome here would be incredible, but it was beyond our expectations. This is certainly a moment we will never forget.
12 hours later, daylight reveals the scale of the welcome and a case of fortune favouring the brave. Ken Reid's Puma rewarded for their bold tactics. After 5,200 nautical miles, the battle for the final podium place was down to a sprint into Auckland, just 93 seconds separating Telefonica and Camper.
It wasn't the best of weather today, and you look at the reception here, and this may well go down as the biggest reception that this current race has. So, you know, like, I think it's a pretty simple formula that the race needs to keep coming back to here. It works.
Well, they call it the City of Sails, and boy, can you see why, looking over the viaduct harbour. The City of Sails, also the City of Sailors. Mike Sanderson there, you can see the St Patrick's Day theme that's running along as Abu Dhabi come around, heading down on the Sailors Parade. Kenny Reid leading his guys, of course. The crowds gathering in the viaduct, and this is the people, the local lads on Camper, who they want to see really hit their straps today. A lot of pressure on them. Frank Camas from Group Amar, who led the fleet in here, of course, and here are our race leaders on Telefonica. Their yachts are waiting and primed. That's David Sweet from Sanya with the green hat for St Patrick's Day. Abu Dhabi docking out as our Camper waving goodbye to the fans ashore, and they've been flocking in here all day. What a view, what a fantastic scene. That's the viaduct harbour here in Auckland. We're out on the harbour now with Groupama and Telefonica. You can see from those flags that the breeze is in, the breeze is blowing. This is going to be great. Neil MacDonald, you're on Telefonica, the only boat without a Kiwi. What are you going to do for local knowledge?
We're going to have to make it up a bit as we go along. We've been looking at the place, our guys and tacticians have been studying it, so we've got a fair feel for it all.
Now, it is a very narrow course. What do you think the big challenge is?
I think it's going to be a lot of tacking, a lot of jibing, just making sure we make the best use of the little shifts we get and keeping out the tide.
Okay, great breeze out there. Looking forward to it?
Glorious. Sunny, warm, windy, everything. Just beautiful.
Okay, good luck out there. We're looking forward to it.
Thanks very much. See you later.
Chris Nicholson, Camper skipper, on board and waiting to get in your home port race. There's pressure there.
Yeah, there is, but I think it's a good thing for us to be out here amongst all the fans and all the public support. It's an honour.
Okay, now you've got local knowledge out there. How are you going to employ it?
Mate, I don't think the local knowledge is as much in it as what people have been saying. The fact that there's so many spectator craft and just people here on the water, that kind of negates it. We've got a good handle on the conditions. But, you know, we're just honestly just trying to keep a clear mind in regards to the racing.
Okay, now nice and breezy. You like this? How are you going to make the most of it?
We're going to keep it smart, keep it sensible. You know, there's been a lot of current on the starting line, trying to keep us off the line, so we need to be up on the line. And it's windward-leeward courses, so there's going to be a lot of jibing, a lot of manoeuvring, and there will be people will get this wrong. They'll get manoeuvres wrong, so we don't want to be one of those boats. We want to be actually just capitalise on that.
We wish you all the best. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Sanderson on home waters in a big breeze and a fleet of these Volvo 70s. What's that like?
Yeah, it's pretty special. It's yeah, Auckland's really turned it on. We've got 15, 16 knots here. It's blowing straight down the harbour, so it means we're in for the world's longest windward-leeward course up and down the harbour in front of all the fans which are out here. So it's just amazing. Okay, now you won yesterday's Pro-Am race with exercises some local knowledge. Tactics today? Yeah, well, yesterday felt like a rum race, and I've done a few of those, and today's got a bit of a Wednesday night feel about it. So, no, I mean, we've got lots of experienced guys on board that know the harbour well, but so is everyone else. So that's not really going to play into our hands. We just got to hope we're quick enough today, and that's been our struggle in this event, obviously. So, yeah, time will tell. Okay, we wish you luck. Have a good one. Thanks very much, Martin. Yeah, we need a bit of luck. Bit of Irish luck today will go a long way. Good man. Cheers. The state of play after leg 4 in the Volvo Ocean Race. Team Telefonica
Groupama and Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand. That's your 1, 2 and 3 as we go into today's in-port race here in Auckland. In the commentary box with me is Peter Lester, world champion sailor, and giving us a rundown on the course and the conditions today. Peter Lester.
Well, the conditions are perfect. The wind's coming straight down the harbour. So the top mark's going to be right tucked under North Head. They go round that top mark. It's a port rounding, so it's a left-hand turn, back down the harbour, under the harbour bridge, and then another left-hand turn around under the harbour bridge, up past the viaduct harbour, up to the top mark again, and then down to the finish. A really tight track.
Now on the water, out on the Waitemata Harbour of Auckland, we have Mark Cavell, an Olympic silver medalist and a former Volvo ocean racer himself. Mark Cavell, your eye on the water today, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm looking at the course, and as Peter said, the wind is coming down the harbour, but every now and again it just flicks left a little bit off the land, which is causing there to be slight differences over the course. I can see slightly dark water and then slightly lighter water, saying that there's going to be a little bit patchy here, and some boats will be in more pressure, and it's just avoiding those little light spots. But really the big deal out here is the 2.5 knot tide that we're having to stem just to stay on the left-hand end of the line, and that'll really be a factor of keeping out of the tide.
Okay, now Peter Lester, we're looking at all these buildings, we're looking at the shifty stuff. We know, and we keep on going on about local knowledge, but surely it has to have some bearing today.
There's a fair bit of local knowledge, but there's a lot of Kiwis spread out over the fleet. But I think the deal will be there'll be tidal relief over on the city side. But Martin, start will be everything. If whoever gets that jump off the line, we can see the line there between the white powerboat, that big launch, and then up down to leeward here, just on the bow of Camper. That's the pin end. So the start line is really over towards the viaduct harbour. So we'll look at the boats to come off. They'll be, I think they'll approach the line on starboard, they'll flop over, and then they'll work the city side for tidal relief.
Now, Mark Cavell, you've done these in-port races. What do you see as being particularly challenging on this course here on the Waitemata?
Well, I feel out of all the in-port races that this race has thrown up, this is going to be a very challenging one, because you're hemmed in by the restrictions of the port to one side and Devonport to the left, and the thousands of spectator boats out here, and so really you're racing in a far narrower corridor than these boats are used to. So as Chris Nicholson said, there will be a lot of manoeuvring, a lot of tacks and jibes to come down this course. There really will.
And of course the point is, with all that manoeuvring, we can't forget this, that the problem that all these guys face is there aren't many of them on the boat, and you know, you have 10 sailors here, the media crew member making up the 11th, but he can't do any of the sailing. And really, Pete, that's just the workload is ferocious.
Yeah, it is, but it just adds to the excitement. Big spectator fleet, that means the restricted area is reduced, and we're into the last minute. The boats will go across on port, and shortly they will tack over. We can see already that Abu Dhabi is on starboard. They'll tack over, time run back towards that committee boat end, and then one of the boats, if you can get launched off the line and then dominate up that city side. But 40 seconds to go, we're on board Groupama, and who's looking good? We've got Abu Dhabi, they've lined up early. Groupama and Telefonica are setting up to leeward. We can see that Camper right up to windward. So now we're into the last 25 seconds. I think this the next 2 or 3 minutes here will be the telling point in this race. If one boat can get launched, Camper are looking pretty good. If they could get a good start at that windward end, they'll be able to tack and get over towards the city side. But Camper a bit locked in there, coming up to 5. So it's off the line. It's Puma. Ken Reid has done the business at the windward end.
All clear.
Ken Reid launches Puma powered by Berg across the line with the committee boat in the back, and in comes Camper now. Who are you liking the look of, Mark Cavell?
Oh, Puma absolutely crossed the line on the button there, going full speed. What a fantastic time and distance there, but doing pretty well. Coming down out in the middle of the pack is Abu Dhabi.
The tide a huge factor here. What are they heading into? It is coming in now.
Well, as they head out towards the middle of the harbour, the current is pushing the boats down towards the harbour bridge. And so really it'll be the boat that tacks away and heads towards the shore side first that'll be in a strong position. We see now there's Camper, they're bailing, they're heading towards the port side. Puma continue on. Group Armour is back a little bit. Group Armour and Telefonica went for a pretty conservative start, Martin. But as this unfolds, I think we're seeing the effect of the local knowledge on board Camper. They're certainly doing, along with Sanya, local guys, they know how to work the Waitemata.
Well, Peter, when we were looking at the harbour before, you were always talking about working the wall. There's the wall out on the right-hand side. That's the shoreline, lined with people out on the Hilton Hotel there at the end of Prince's Wharf, the Customs House building in the background. What a view they're getting. And Mark Cavell, give us an idea of where you are on the course so you can give us a sort of picture of the scene as it's developing in front of you.
Well, I'm just tucked behind Abu Dhabi as they tack and come onto port tack. But there's something telling me that wall's looking good with both Mike Sanderson and Team Sanya and Camper. And Camper, as I see, is getting a lovely lift. That means that they're turning a little left. They're getting a better angle against the wind along that wall, and I wonder whether that's the route they're looking for.
Now, Peter, on the way up here, when we talk about the wall, it's the quays, it's the little bays inside the quays. What's the tide doing, and what's the wind doing at the same time?
Well, the wind will be bending around the wharves, but essentially why they are going along that city side, there will be less current running in the wharves. And you know, Puma look all right out in the middle at the moment, but Camper will be probably in 1 knot less current over there on that city side. And Camper, when they come about, will come out with starboard advantage, and that will mean that they will be looking for an intersection, how strong they can be on Puma at the intersection.
Okay, here we are on board with Nicholson. Take a few deep breaths. This is really absolutely the crucial time now for Nicholson and Camper. I mean, we know how much pressure they're under to perform in their home port. We watched the practice race, and locals watched with some dismay because clearly the red boat wasn't exactly performing as well as it needs to. But now they're looking in a pretty strong position. Mark Cavell, what are you seeing up the track?
Well, I'm seeing again Camper looking like a really nice angle on that left-hand side, but the guys who come further out, they're really leaning on the boat. They're going bow down. The boats have got a lot more heel, and I think they're deciding that they need to put their bow down and their accelerator on to actually get out of the middle of this tidal flow against them and try to join in and hold a lane. But we saw yesterday Mike Sanderson managing to hold a lane before he had to tack for the wall. And I wonder how far Camper can go against that wall before she does have to tack out.
On board with Sanya at the moment, looking up, and you can see the wharves sticking out. Now, Pete, what's the idea? You try and just squeeze up. We're looking at Camper now. Do they not try and squeeze around that?
Ideally, there's good water all the way in because it's a commercial port. And you can see Camper, if they can squeeze around the end of that wall, they can then track all the way over to the container terminal in Slackwater. There's Cameron Dunn calling tactics for Mike Sanderson.
And they've gone a little bit hammered down, haven't they? They really are pacing. Mark Cavell, you're on the boat tracking them. What sort of speeds are we talking about here?
Well, I'm stood on the back of the boat, but looking around, when you look, the boats around are fully on the plane and going fast, but it really does look like Camper's managing to get around that wall.
We're just looking at it now, Mark. We're just looking at the camera on the back of Camper, looking back towards Sanya. They just sneaked around the rubber tyre at the end of that mark.
Well, of course, that becomes an instruction, but both boats are wanting to just use the shelter from the current over there on that port side, but it does look like Camper now will have to tack because we can see that wharf fast approaching, and then Camper will come back out to the middle. But the other thing I've observed, Martin, even though the boats out in the middle are in more current, there's been a little bit of a left-hand shift, and I think that's been pretty good for Puma. It's kept them in the game. So intersection coming up.
It certainly looks that way, and certainly Group Armour too have got some pace, but we're looking down towards Puma at the moment, Marmostro, but here comes Camper, and they're tramping. They are really moving along a bit here. Will Oxley and Chuney on the grinders there, grinding in. The big red sail of Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand glides across the bow of Puma. At this stage in the race, the locals have it.
Yeah, they do, Martin, but now what the issue for Camper will be, how far out into the current do they go, and then that will give Puma the opportunity for tidal relief and to come it back at Camper on starboard. But I think Camper have picked a nice lane there. You can see they're getting a bit of right-hand shift out of the container. Now we've got some action going on. Back in the fleet, Sanya have come in underneath Group Armour. But all the boats now are really working the tidal relief over on the city side.
Now, we were hearing a whistle going there. Mark, could you pick up on that?
I'm too far up on the Devonport side to see that, but certainly Sanya came off. They had to tack back. They're now going very, very slow. They've just gone back to the other side of Abu Dhabi. But it does look like...
we were just wondering what might have happened on the committee bit. We'll try and bring that to you. We can hear a whistle going, which is an indication of some kind of incident as we watch Telefonica dipping below Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, they do like this flat water. They won the practice race, showing a considerable turn of speed, but at the same time, look at that boat go. That Telefonica is a weapon and a bit when she gets the bit between her teeth.
But Martin, that was very costly for Sanya. It looked like a bit of a port starboard incident there, and I suspect that was the whistle. But Camper have really stepped out. They're in clear air and electing to come out into the middle of the harbour, so they like their angle. And we look at Telefonica to windward of Sanya, and I'm just waiting to see boats break away and head up the right-hand side. And as we went away, we saw Group Armour tack away, Camper continuing towards Devonport.
The brains trust here on Camper. That's Stu Bannatyne, the co-skipper, and liaising hard there, using Bannatyne's years and years of sailing on this. And this is looking promising for Camper, but we've seen them hold a lead and then lose it. Are they able to maintain this one?
Big moment here, Martin. Camper on port, though. They're required to keep... Camper are required to keep clear. And Abu Dhabi, they're clear of Abu Dhabi. The boat we're looking for is Puma on starboard against Camper.
Okay, we're looking at the track now. Look at that huge spectator fleet in beyond Devonport Wharf on the north shore of Auckland Harbour, and it's just the most amazing conditions here. A great breeze, city of sails.
Yeah, there's
there's the cross.
There's the cross. Now I think that's a big moment in the race. Camper have got from that port hand tack. They were required to keep clear, but Puma did not have enough starboard to get at Camper. So if you're a Camper fan, for the locals, Camper, nice start. They got the first break off the line, and now they're heading up the city side, or pretty well straight up the middle of the harbour. So I think Camper are in a pretty strong position.
Oh, well, they're just, I think we'll all take just a little bit of a breather here as we watch the action unfold here. Group Armour, they're just hugging in towards the container terminal. Mark Cavell, watching over the spread of this, and as I say, you've been in this before. We've seen tack, 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 and hard work. How are the crews going to be feeling at this stage?
Well, in this flat water, it's a real pleasure to sail because the boats are set up for the big ocean legs, but big, powerful tacks, and they've really been nailing them. As you said, that they are very important tacks here. Camper needed to cross Puma there. When you get to the left of another boat, it's important that you tack back well and you come back on a good shift, because once you get to the left, you're on the give-way side of them. So they did well to get across Puma now, and it really does look like they've pinned their ears back and they're heading along.
Okay, on board there, we were just on board there with Puma, looking at Kelvin Harrop. He's the local guy who'll be providing Ken Reid with the knowledge. Kelvin Harrop sadly not going to do the next leg because he's suffering from tendinitis. You can see that he's just doing the brain stressed work rather than the physical stuff here. His knowledge will be invaluable on a boat like this, Peter.
Oh yeah, in the harbour, Brad Jackson, also another Aucklander, so he knows his way around the harbour. But Camp, you can see they're clear ahead, and they've got a good little buffer there at the moment. The boat that interesting, we've got Groupama right over towards Tamaki Drive. Now they'll be looking for something to come back on. There'll be less, there'll be a bit of tidal relief over there with Groupama. But Camper, it was a pretty good start, and more importantly for Camper, Martin, although they were a boat length back from the line from Puma, they were the first boat to tack and hit the Hilton lift, I guess.
Getting into the wall and riding the wall, and here's the confirmation of that. Chris Nicholson protecting a lead about 130 odd metres from our friends at Virtual Eye, up here also at home in some respects. They've up here from Dunedin, providing us with their technological magic and helping us read exactly what's going on the race course. And there's the boat, there's Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand thumping up the middle of the track, and can they hang on to this? You know, it's funny when you look at this boat, maybe it's the paintwork sometimes, and I know it is, but it actually does look shorter than the other boats.
Yeah, it could be, well, let's assume it's 70 feet long. But one thing with Camper, you know, it seems like it's gotten a bit of Achilles heel reaching, but when it's on the wind like they are now, it's certainly got legs, and right now Camper looks pretty comfortable with the boats around her in terms of speed. Now, Martin, what's happening now? You can see Camper's headed a little bit. That means her bow is just pointed to the right. You can look at Abu Dhabi; they're a little bit bow up, so that would indicate to me that there's a bit of a wind shift, there's a bit of a header, and of course the reciprocal is that is when you tack, you're lifting, you're on that making board to the top mark. The boats are punching a couple of knots of current. Once they get round the yellow, you can see the yellow circle, the top mark will actually be orange. Downwind, the fleet will spread out because of the current.
Okay, Mark Cavell, Peter is talking there about a little bit of a wind shift. You've got it in your face down there. What are you feeling?
Absolutely. There's a little bit of a left shift here. Looking back, we were on the line of Abu Dhabi for a while, and you could see them pointing a lot higher than the boats down to the right. So that would have done Camper a lot of favours against the next boat of Groupama, and together with Puma, who's further set up to the left of Groupama. So little left shift in the air at the moment.
Okay, Camper heading in towards another of the marinas up here that dot the Waitemata Harbour here in the city of Sails. Groupama has come back across into the middle of the track. I guess the big decision now will be for Camper, because would the next line, would the next tack be the making tack? Well,
the next tack, for just looking at it for Camper, is just about ley line. But the boat has come through and have taken, you know, some valuable meters here. Groupama are right into Puma. So it's worked out pretty nicely for Groupama on that Tamaki Drive side. Puma are still second, but this team have closed in.
Okay, the local knowledge on Groupama is in fact Brad Marsh, but he was laughing the other day. I said, well, what about the the local knowledge? Do they take your advice? And he says, well, I'm up in the bow, and sometimes I think they only choose, they sort of make a choice on whether they want to listen to me or not. So.
Oh, look at that. That's North Head, where our commentary position is just above, but it's a good crowd.
Yeah, a lot of people we saw a lot of people take their lunch up here. I think there'd probably be a lot more people if they didn't have to walk up here, because when we arrived this morning, the car park was already full. Coming back down on these amazing sails of Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, and that is Justin Ferris trimming, and he is the guy there's been some controversy, and he's the guy who's leaving the boat. This will be his last performance on it. He's being taken, his role's been taken over by, and I think, would that be Tony Nossiter? Anthony Knocker, they call the big Aussie guy, and Justin Ferris there, he's mutually agreed, we hear, to leave the boat, and I guess in time we'll talk about all that, the chemistry of crew work. But we're gliding around North Head with our helicopter here. And this is Camper, this is currently the race leader. Can the local lads hang on to it? Mark Cavell, can you see them in a good light, or are they being caught up?
A very good light indeed. They've gone into that bay and they've tacked and coming out, and I think the the left-hand shift that we saw a little while ago has gone back to the right. The wind is oscillating left and right here all the time, just a few degrees, and it's a little like when all the boats are on the same tack. The guy on the inside, the boat on the inside, it's like being on lane 1 of a running track. Basically has to sail or run a little less distance, and that's exactly what's happening to Camper at the moment. They've got a little right-hand shift, so they're in the lane 1, and everybody out on the right, and I'm talking probably Abu Dhabi when they tack back, they're going to be on the lane 8 and a little bit further away, so we'll have to sail a bit more. That is until the wind shifts back again.
Well, what happens over on Mark on that right-hand side, there's a you can see that effect of Auckland Bay. And there's a road there called Ngāpipi Road, and the 18-footer guys who sail at Auckland Sailing Club, they know the Ngāpipi Road shift pretty well, and I think Camper have also hooked into that one. When we pulled off that shot, it did look like Camper was a little bit overlaid on the top, Mark Martin. That looked like they were pressing hard, but of course if you can press these boats, you've got a bit of tide, but the speed just rockets up. We can see Group Armour right on the ley line to the orange mark. But I think Camper have actually overlaid the mark, and it will just be interesting to see as the boats converge whether Group Armour have been able to capitalise on that overlay by Camper.
Well, that would be strategically a grim decision, given all the local knowledge we've kept on talking about. We're with that was Kelvin Harrop on Puma here.
Well, just to jump in, Mark, look how eased Camper are. You can see the mainsail's been eased out, the Genoa's eased. So Camper, in fact, that whole freight train of boats coming in from the city side, they actually went too far on port. Now, the boat that might benefit from this, if they can lay the mark against the tide, will be Group Armour. Now look at Group Armour, they're going to be right with Camper, but Camper are absolutely smoking it into the top mark, but a slight error there by Camper. They have overlaid the mark, but it looks like the big beneficiary will be Group Armour. I don't think they're ahead of Camper, but they have got round Puma.
Cavell, why do you think that was? What do you think the situation was that let that happen?
Well, I think two things. I think Camper knew they had to go deep into that bay to get the shift. The shift probably rotated round to the right a little bit more than they thought, or as they were doing the manoeuvre. And when the shift came, Camper realised, Group Armour realised they didn't need to go so far, and that is why Camper's bearing in here. And Group Armour different distance compared to Camper, as Camper bears down on the...
Camper lead at the first mark, around the orange mark. Camper going for their goes. It'll be an A2.5 Jenica, but it's Group Armour who picked the ley line beautifully to the top mark. So Group Armour are second at Mark 1. So this is tight, Martin. This is
tight. And who's
race.
got the legs down here now when they get these big Jenicas up? Because we do know that this is a rocket ship on a reach. How's it going to be on a position of sail like this?
A jibe set there by Group Armour. Camper did a delayed, they came around on starboard. The Camper's away under Jenica. Group Armour still getting the sun listed as come in. Puma passed by Group Armour on the upwind. So Kenny Reid brings Puma, powered by Berg, around the first mark.
I think
you can hear the urgency in voice there and stuff. And what you were saying before, Mark, about this being like a sort of race course. I was reading before that driving Volvo 70s at cans like drive a city bus on a go-kart track, and that's what it's like here. And these are 70-foot going like this is on board Sanya.
Well, on board Sanya, we've got very, very tight racing. Actually held Abu Dhabi and Telefonica up as their bow goes down. Will they jibe? They are. Telefonica holds big spin there for Abu Dhabi. Looks like they're rotating the boat there to get up on top of Abu Dhabi, Sanya, trying to seal some air, and that also helps the sail pop. And Sanya really holding Abu Dhabi up. There's a lot of action here.
Well, it's all on at the top mark. Sanya, both boats did a jibe set. We could see the short-handed cruise. There's a lot to get the Jenica up, the jib down, and get the sail full. Mike Sanderson pushing the team to try and dominate over Abu Dhabi, but that was a very aggressive by the team on.
And the look on his face to affect that move, but look, Sanya now, she's off and running, Mark. She's humping down there.
Absolutely. What Sanya did is she did a pretty tight turn that forced Abu Dhabi to do an even tighter turn, and Mike Sanderson just held the bow up a little bit longer, also giving his crew a little time to get the sails up and set, and that really caused some problems for Ian Walker and his team, and they had another 40 to go when the sails set, so the grinders will be breathing for some air now.
Well, you were quite right about breathing there. We just saw Mike Pamenter on the handles there, and they're just absolutely heaving in the breath. Tony Ray and he was looking back, and for a change they're looking back at the opposition, and they'd like to try and keep them there. Peter, what do they have to do to do that?
It just turns really into a classic yacht race, and Camper, they're in the box seat. As long as they don't have a manoeuvre problem and crew work, normally they're pretty but of course Group Amar, the team on the charge, they won the leg down from Sanya to Auckland, and for sure, Martin, for Camper, I think even though this is not a big point scorer, they need to be doing things in this race. We're halfway around the world. Camper have been consistent but not spectacular so far in the doing the business, and starting to look probably to hit the they need to hit. This course is going to suit them, Martin. This is not reaching. This boat seems to be all right, but I actually think this in-port race in Auckland is actually going to sit just fine.
Okay, we go back to what Mark Cavell was saying at the same time, that we've just seen at that last mark that the crews are absolutely being pushed to the limit as they go into a jibe here on Camper, and one mistake, Mark, can be so expensive.
Absolutely, there. Chris Nicholson, his leadership will be saying, calm it down, let's make these manoeuvres. You heard in his pre-race chat that he felt there would be mistakes made, and he didn't want to be on that scorecard.
Well, that'll be a determination on the Kiwi boat, and you have to feel to some extent for Chris Nicholson. He's felt under enormous pressure to perform. They were gutted at only coming in, missing the podium, coming in on that last leg, having led it for so long at one stage as well. And they know they're here at home, they're here in the city of Sails. The Kiwis are so used to success on their home waters, and as you were saying, Peter, this if they can do this, then that's going to go a long way to settling the camp on Camper.
Well, you know, the race ran the risk really of Telefonica running away with it up until the leg down from group did the number business. They won that leg. The other we've been waiting to we'll look back and go Camper. They hit their straps in their home. They've extended on this downwind. Remember, Group Amar got Camper down. Container pretty good. But Group Amar, what is significant to me, Group Amar around Puma.
And Group have, I think, well, they'd be the most amazingly improved. But I mean, look at this leg. I mean, they just looked a little ragged early in the period, but since then, I mean, they have just been their decision making, their crew work, and just plain boat speed.
And they got serious pace. I mean, Group Amar, Monica, who we can see there. Those two boats are fast, and give them the right wind angle, right conditions. They're fast.
Okay, the guy on the winch there, that was Brad Marsh. He is the only Kiwi on that French boat that we've been talking about.
But the boats look fantastic.
What a for
20 knots
the
plus
Aucklanders.
down the harbour. And let's just hope, you know, the spectators keep out of the way. I'm sure they will. Educated.
Mark, you're out there. I mean, we're seeing bits of spectators here and there. You can look around with your own eye. And what are you seeing? We're watching camper. We're riding on a quarter now, flying down. Give us a sort of bird's eye view or water's eye view of the spectator craft and what the atmosphere is like down there.
Well, we're just tracking past the naval ships on Devonport, and I look left, and it's reminiscent of the America's Cup days where the armada of spectator boats would come down. But we're looking right down the bow of Camper, looking back at the fleet. It really is a stunning look. And the nice thing for Camper is that they are just ahead of really being dictated too heavily by Group Armour, the trailing boat. They can still jibe when they want. They can pick their shifts. Looks like they're running into a jibe now, but old Kenny Reid on Puma, he must be thinking he was suckered into going into that bay following the Kiwis.
Well, yes, that's local knowledge gone bad, I guess, in some respects. Here's the Kiwis. Can they keep this clean? We are talking about there being no mistakes. You can't afford to make them, and here we are. This is Petra Baggers. Petra, can you hear us there?
Yep.
Petra's one of our TV stars here on Television One, and she's just trying to find the channel. Petra, can you hear us there okay?
Yes, I can, Martin.
Okay, now you were looking forward to this. Is it living up to expectations?
Absolutely, we are in the lead, which I'm very excited about. Everybody's very focused here. It's fantastic from on the course. The team is working, they seem settled to me. There's no stress, no confusion, just going for it.
Okay, thanks very much for that little insight, and you can wave to your husband who's on the camera boat right behind you. Thanks, Petra Baggers, having an absolute thrill of a ride on that boat, and you know, can they hang on to it to the end as we see the Sky Tower, the skyline of the central business district of Auckland, the bridge in the background, and just looking at the wake coming off that boat, they are really moving along as we look back across the city from the North Shore on the chopper. Group Armour into their jibe now. They've been very, very clever on this racetrack. Can they be clever enough to catch the Kiwis? Mark Cavell.
Well, Group Armour have jibed, but now Group Armour are coming under attack from Puma. And what's happening, Martin, as they come back down into the harbour, the wind has got a little bit lighter, and I think there's more pressure over on the city side. Now, Group Armour came down, they jibed. Kenny Reid has jibed on the inside, and they've got a bit more pressure. And we can see speed difference. The red spinnaker of Puma, they're in a bit more pressure, and I think we could see another place change here for second. So Kenny Reid has got back into the game.
Certainly had that look to it. The angles can be a little bit deceptive, but there's Kenny. He would never give up. He loves this kind of racing. Multiple world champion in all kinds of disciplines, and you know, to be throwing a Volvo 70 around in these conditions and in a tight confined space with a big audience, well, it's a sailor's dream, isn't it, Mark?
Absolutely. Kenny's always throwing the boat around. I know on the pre-start he's always coming in with plenty of speed, but he does seem to get a lick of speed up along that shore and roll down over Camper, over Group Armour. Now he'll come out on starboard, and it's a case of how Group Armour set up on top, and really whether they try to steal a bit of pressure and whether Group Armour can start to dictate back to Puma.
Okay, we can just see the engines on your boat being given a bit of stick to try and keep up with them, and look at them flying past. What an amazing view for these people as we go right in towards the shore side, and Puma are flying.
Yeah, good pressure.
Look at that.
Good pressure over there, Martin, on that city side, and I think Kelvin Harrop's called a good one there for Kenny Reid. As now Puma go into a jibe, they're going to come out of here on starboard. So the intersection between Puma and Group Armour it could be a big one. Kenny Reid just making sure the outside jibe works. Look at the big crowd outside the Hilton. Isn't it fantastic? Isn't it fantastic to see so many people come out and watch the Volvo Ocean Race here in Auckland? But Puma have jibed. I think Puma there in good shape, Martin.
Well, very, very neatly done. Brad Jackson, the local, along with Kelvin Harrop, a couple of Kiwis on there helping out on that call. Kenny Reid looking cool as a cucumber. and it's a couple of guests on the back of the boat. You know, these guys here, this is Puma powered by Berg Propulsion, and Berg, I understand, flew in 40 people from around the world.
Yeah,
and just to give them a bit of a treat, but what a treat it is.
Yeah, it is a treat. Now, the issue here in terms of what's happening on the water, even though Puma have got into a strong position, they do run the risk of being in the wind shadow of Group Armour to windward. That means that you can see Group Armour there on the left, so there's a shadowing effect from the sails, and that can affect the power of that leeward boat, the red Jenica of Puma. And it looks to me, I'm just looking at the bearing change, or if there's the change in angle, I think Group Armour are actually giving turbulent wind to that leeward boat.
Brad Marsh up towards the bow, his station, looking ahead, looking down towards the harbour bridge. You can see the chop on the harbour there.
Yeah, it's happening, Martin. See how Group Armour now they're pushing forward, they're sailing a little bit deeper. So they're actually rolling down over the top of Puma. So Puma got into a very strong position, but Group Armour so far are defending. Now, while all this is happening, of course, it's playing right into the hand of Camper, because while they play with each other, the leading boat, now the rules come into effect. The windward boat, which is Group Armour, is required to keep clear.
Well, there's the whistle.
So all the actions with Group Armour and Puma.
Now that whistle was the umpires being called on to make a call. This is a big luffing competition going on out here between the two. Mark Cavell, you're out there.
Absolutely. Group Armour's been soaking down, leaning down over the front of Puma, and Puma now is clear astern and is now going to turn the tables and going to try to come up and try to do the same as Group Armour's just done to them and steal some breeze.
I think famously in Auckland we've heard the expression over the years, hold your proper course, in various languages.
It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. The rules change. But that was certainly a bit of action, and good defence by Frank Kamas and the Group Armour team, and Puma have had to drive away. And we can see Abu Dhabi Racing also basically coming into the game. But of course, while this is all happening, Martin, the boat in the lead will be extending. And we go back, look at virtual, we can see Camper, the white line, they're heading over towards West Haven. There's the Auckland Harbour Bridge, the iconic Auckland Harbour Bridge. And Camper outside jibe, that means the Jenica turns on the outside of the luff. We can see that the Genoa, Mike Pemminger, already they're getting their Genoa sorted out. Genoa's still on deck.
Up on the bridge.
And the other thing that's happening, as they get down into this area, it's a lot more sheltered. The wind is getting lighter. So Camper will be very keen to get round this bottom mark and head back up towards the top mark, Devonport.
I was just going to say, there are the famous flags flying, and at least that's showing there is still good pressure coming in from the east. That's the Auckland Harbour Bridge. They originally had just a couple of 4 lanes down the middle, then they built the so-called Nippon clip-on to make it a bit wider, and this is an amazing view of the top markers coming into view shortly, looking back down across the city. Camper heading into the bridge, hope they get it right. It always looks a bit weird when you sail a boat under the bridge. Is it going to make it? This little bracket here underneath, well, this is where they do, just a bit further in from there, they do the bungee jumping off here, but I don't actually see any jumpers. Maybe they've been told to hang back for a while while the boats go under it. Chris Nicholson at the helm and trying to get the right point of the bridge to get underneath. We have in the past seen boats actually stuck under here. It's not a good look, especially on a big tide like they've got today. Always looks a bit weird.
That's right. When you're standing in the cockpit and you look at the mast going under the span of the bridge, it certainly doesn't look that much separation. But Camper through under the Auckland Harbour Bridge. They'll be now looking at the second mark. It is a left-hand turn, port rounding, and then Camper will head all the way back up the harbour. Gee, Camper have sailed well.
Well, they've yet to get there, and I think they'll be very conscious of the fact that you never say nothing can go wrong, because that means the tape's stuck and you've got a bit of a problem. So here they are charging along very nicely under the bridge. There's still a bit of a battle going on behind them, Mark.
Absolutely, and there's more breeze behind them. They wouldn't wouldn't surprise me if the chasing fleet has caught a little bit on Camper. Virtual will tell us that, but I'm looking now at Camper, and they are coming right into quite a lot of less pressure down here. It's mill pond conditions, it looks around, compared to up the course. A lot less pressure this side of the beat. And look at that for a reactive move. A sail change, a peel from Camper.
From Camper, there is the peel, and this is what we were saying about making sure everything went nice and smoothly. And they're heading down into the mark, and Chris Nicholson there just setting his course, getting ready for the turn.
Well, that's the...
Now they've got to just hang on to this. Can they do it? There's the mark.
It's the downwind sail. The asymmetrical Jenica comes down. The Janara is up as... Gee, it's light. Now what it is, it's a shadowing effect. That's called Northcote Point, where the harbour bridge meets the North Shore. And there's no wind down there because you have the effect of the land blowing the wind. So we'll be wanting to get out of this light, fluky corner as clean as they can. Nicholson brings the boat around. Tony Ray, he's got a couple of cracked ribs, who's trimming the... He comes round. Group Armour have defended against Puma. So Mark II, it's Camper leading.
It's a complete different, it's a real mode change here. They go from being in quite good pressure to now softly.
Well, Mark, you can see that quite clearly on the water. We're looking at an aerial shot, looking back at the whole fleet. Camper's now heading up towards where that pressure is. Can you see that where you are?
Yeah, they little spot now as they load up. The pressure's back on, but looking back at Group Armour and the chasing yachts, very light. I was surprised at how early Camper changed their upwind sail there. Just there is everything's gone so much light, and they put that manoeuvre in nicely, keeping it very conservative. And there's going to be a very close rounding between Telefonica and Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi coming into Mark II with a lot of pressure on. They're very late on their takedown. I think Ian Walker is going to be pushing his crew here. They came in with pace, but can they recover that big yellow Jenica? I don't think they can. And of course,
they've got problems.
The fast entry into the sail, Martin, but it really affects your exit from the mark. And we can see that pretty aggressive move there by Abu Dhabi, but they'll pay a price for that as we look up. Puma heading back up, Camper coming under the span of the bridge. Now look at that, Camper can't lay under the span of the bridge, so they've been able to tack. They've had to tack. Look at the problems on board Abu Dhabi. They've got spinnaker all over the place. They push that bottom mark hard, but it's tricky down the bottom. The wind's all over the place. Look, there's Jenica.
Even the skipper trying to get it off the backstay. What a mess.
That's a shocker, real shocker.
Well, it's just there's just not enough people in that regard, and I guess that's why Camper chose to go so conservatively, because and this is interesting now. Our Group Armour going to run it? No,
well, it's all go up there, Martin. Camper were not able to lay, but they also were a bit quiet. That meant that Group Armour are right in this with Camper. There's only, what, 2.5 lengths separation between the boats. And I think Group Armour have done this little exit from Mark II to the harbour bridge beautifully.
Frank Camas, very neat. They just never give up, do they? And this is another short tack under the bridge. Okay, into their work on board Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand there. They're just about to emerge from under the harbour bridge. The traffic whizzes by, oblivious to the action going on underneath. Well, you hope they're oblivious as they're driving their cars, but Camper emerges. How quickly is Group Armour going to emerge following them? There we are on board with Group Armour. How close does it look to you on the water, Mark?
Well, very close as Group Armour roll into attack directly underneath the bridge. For me, that was very overcautious behaviour from Camper there. They got their sail down very early, and that slow around that leeward mark. Camper saw that and really jumped on it and left their drop a lot later, and so did Puma. So you've got 3 boats now just going underneath the bridge, very close. But what a shocker from Abu Dhabi there, looking back. They were actually trying a manoeuvre, actually nicknamed the Kiwi, where you actually you pull on the lazy sheet, spike the tack, and let the whole sail come down on the Genoa, and it then falls very nicely as you jibe round on your jib, and the whole thing drops down. But definitely not meant to drop on the not meant to drop on the skipper.
Well, and of course, when you normally do that manoeuvre, it's a full crew manoeuvre. And you need lots of hands on deck to grab the sail and contain it. It's a pretty ambitious move to do a Kiwi drop, or that manoeuvre where you drop the spinnaker on the windward side on the Genoa in a boat that's short-handed.
Looking down on Mar Nostro, this fabulous paint job, the Puma there, and then this great monster of the sea.
She's rolling Group Armour. I think there was an issue on Group Armour. I looked up and the main was not coming in for a while. They might have had an issue, and only now that they look like they're up to speed, and that really gave Puma the chance to get set for this upwind course and really get height and speed inside. And now they really are dictating to the French out on the right.
Well, looks like the boat's still coming under the boot. We've got Abu Dhabi there coming under the harbour bridge. And of course, for Abu Dhabi, that bottom mark was a bit of a debacle for them. And the boat that's actually jumped back into the game there and done a very good mark rounding at the bottom at Mark 2 was Sanya. Sanya were behind, and they have jumped. For Ian Walker, that Kiwi drop at the Mark 2, very costly. So where the boats are heading now, they're coming through the harbour bridge. The start-finish line is actually a mark of the course. So the boats have to go back over towards the Hilton. They go through the start-finishing line, and then they'll head all the way back up to Devonport to Mark 1, and then around to the finish. So we can see the gate there, right off the end of the really the Wynyard Quarter. And Camper have just consolidated a bit there, Martin. What will happen as they move up the harbour? Of course, the leading boat will get into fresher wind, into more wind speed,
which is what's happening now.
And so therefore you extend.
Well, they'll be closing in on the finish now on Camper, and sorry, the gate. They're closing in on the gate, which is the start-finish line, and they'll go scooting through that. And I wonder, will they play the same tactic, work the wall?
Same deal. The tide essentially is coming in for another hour, so it'll be the same game plan. I'm sure we'll see the teams work the city side all the way up to the container terminal. Then they'll duck over towards Tamaki Drive. They'll pick that ley line to the top mark again. So Camper, there's been some quite big defining moments, I reckon. The start, obviously, that overlay at the top mark, and defending at the harbour bridge for Camper was they're big moments.
Looking now across towards the city again, and Camper, I've got to say, Mark Cavell at this stage looking pretty comfortable.
Yeah, they really have. While you were actually speaking, they were extending out a further lead. The rich gets richer on this course now, and they'll just be working out whether they need to do a small little dog leg up to maintain that great lift they had off the wall on the way up before. And looking back at the chasing two, we've got Group Armour really trying to hold the giant cat of Il Mostro here coming down.
Well, I think your observation earlier, Mark, that the virtual, I can tell you, is showing that, as you predicted, that Mar Nostro Puma is showing some legs at the moment on virtual. It's pretty neck and neck, but Puma does have a slight edge, but Camper are certainly going nicely at the moment.
They look actually like they're going to get round the Hilton pier there and head over towards the cloud without tacking for quite some time. Just trying to look at their angle compared to where they tacked off the line last time they were in this bit of water. And it looks to me they're a little bit lower than where they attacked initially, so we might see an early attack from them.
Okay, we're with a camera at the moment that is giving us a bow-to-bow shot. I think the angle, as much as anything else, is also favouring Puma, but Puma look really nice.
Yes, Puma's done a really nice job there. They capitalised on an earlier problem on Group Armour, and they've just kept the pressure on, just holding the line. And I think they have also been lifted slightly, so that for, you know, going back to that lane 1 analogy, they've had to sail a little bit less distance, and they can hold up inside Groupama.
Well, what about the tide in this? I mean, now it's looking at that picture, it's looking like Groupama has sneaked away a bit. I mean, talk us through the tide here, looking at that big wide shot of the city.
Yeah, well, basically the tide action is going from left to right, but the race really is between these two boats. So the windward boat, Puma, has pushed over the top of Camper. Puma, as the boat closest to the wind, is required to keep clear. And the other thing that'll happen, Martin, if Groupama can get hold Puma all the way to the wall, then the calling for room rules come into effect, and that would mean that Puma would need to give Groupama the opportunity to get away from the wall, basically get away from the shore.
Out in front of an enormous spectator fleet on the harbour, all seem to be being pretty well behaved, which is good news, because in the past we have had incidents here. That building in the background, which world was the scene of the gala dinner for the race, become on Auckland Harbour here. Board Puma looking back at Groupama. This is the battle for second and third, and up front you can see that Camper is stretching. Can she hang on to it? I hope so, because the odds on her winning were well, Camper was started off as the bookies' favourite, and a friend of mine who knows more about these things than I do said they were equal with, or the same odds as Camper and Telefonica, paying $2.85 if you know exactly how that works out. Said he was going to put on $10 for me, so I might be able to buy a beer tonight. Right, Will Oxley, the tactician and navigator,
here we go
on Camper. They're getting ready for their tack.
Camper heading in right against the wall, against the wharves, setting up for attack. We can see there behind Victor Arena as Camper set up to tack, but they want to push. They want to push right in. There's good water all the way in. So Camper in good shape. They wind on, squeeze into the tack. Will Oxley attacking, but the action really will be the two boats behind Martin, because we've got Groupama and Puma locked together as Camper tacks in good breeze.
See how close they are to that wall. You've got to have some confidence, don't you? I mean, we know it's deep because that is an ocean terminal, but at the same time, well, when you see rocks that close, it looks close. And talking about close, look how Puma's got Groupama.
Well, that's another position change. And off the line it was Puma, then Puma overlaid the line, overlaid the top mark at Mark 1, and that meant that Groupama got ahead. But then Kenny Reid, showing you know, a deft hand really, has managed to get around Groupama. Groupama may well have had a bit of a mechanical issue as they come through the harbour bridge. But it's great to see some changes of position, as it makes it so exciting.
So really, because wind is what's helped us have some really good action, because we were, if the wind was in a certain condition, it would have been pretty much a soldier's course, but they've had to work, had to find some nice lanes, and it's played out really nicely in that respect.
Yeah, it's been perfect. Mark, when you look up the course from where you are, you'll be getting fresher as they head up towards Devonport, up towards that top mark.
Well, there's a nice dark down towards the I saw there was a change of course, and I can imagine the boat, the marks have been moved to the right, so there's a shift in the air, so that's gone to the right. Course, but just Puma away in front of Groupama. Can you read how longer, and that allowed them to drift up onto Groupama's line, forcing Groupama to tack back. So 2 tacks in very, very short concession would have really hurt Groupama. And I'm surprised that Puma has come out so far as they did. They must have come out on a nice line and now going back towards the wall. But tell me, are you loving the images coming from the MCMs?
No, it looks pretty good. All the images coming from our team are fantastic. We're with Camper at the moment, as Nicholson has a bit of a look behind the boom. They had probably a little bit of a heart in the mouth under the harbour bridge, but it looks like Camper are pretty comfortable.
You talk about, Mark was talking about the MCMs. What he's talking about there is media crew members. This is one of them operating here, because the media crew member, this could well be his stern camera, has a bunch of cameras to operate as well as a handheld camera. And Mark, you we're just watching, we're on with Groupama at the moment. They're just tacking close in to the harbour wall by the container terminal. There's giant cranes. We can see Camper up in the foreground, but this is the stern camera, and it's sitting on the back of a big Inmarsat dome, which transmits the pictures around via satellite back to us when the boats are out in the ocean. And it's the media crewman. All he does is video and blog and send some audio files off the boats every day, and works hard on conditioning on the imports like this. Can't do any of the sailing, can cook and clean, and you've done that job, Mark, and it's well, how will you describe it?
Well, just while we're watching the boats coming up the harbour, the MCM media crew on board really has the luxury of the satellite communication coming off the boat. That's what makes these HD pictures that we see from the thousands of miles out to sea really possible. And it's a tough job. You've got to do a lot of filming, a bit of editing, a bit of writing, and all on the most crazy sleigh ride, and then beam it off the boat. And that's why you're seeing the action straight away. And these are the pictures coming to you now from the MCMs, hard at work on the backs of the boat, capturing the action.
Okay, well, we're on board. We're watching Justin Slattery helping to pack the Jenica down below, and hot, sweaty, hideous work. And Mark, I imagine you've got to have a pretty strong stomach for that job.
Well, fun enough, the first night out is often the hardest night, because you're filming, you're getting used to the ocean motion of the boat, and that's when you've got some great media from the start you've got to get back. And that's the time you've got to be staring at a computer, sending it off the boat. So yes, you've got to get your sea legs pretty quickly.
Well, that's certainly, as we understand it, going to be the case tomorrow when the race gets underway. But we're in the In-Port Race at the moment, and we're just looking back at Abu Dhabi. They've recovered now from a rather shambolic drop of their Jenica down at under the harbour bridge. They took a gamble; it didn't come off. If they'd come out of it clean, they could have been on a winner. But they're way back down the fleet from where they were, and that's pretty unfortunate for Ian Walker, because, as we were talking before, they do like this flat water on this boat, and certainly during the practice race that thing was on fire. Now with Chris Nicholson back at the helm, and he won't be feeling comfortable yet, but he'll love where he is compared with where he's been at every other In-Port race so far.
Well, Camp attacking, they must be very close to the ley line. It'll be we're looking for an orange mark. There was a change of course, so it's more over towards the city side. I think Camper must be on the ley line. We can see they've tacked. The foredeck, getting the A2 set up on the foredeck. Chris Nicholson, yeah, we can see the marker just under the leeward side on that left-hand side. Now that's why Nicholson's gone down to that leeward wheel, just so he can judge as he comes in. Camper coming into, it's into the third mark, so it's mark 1, it's the third leg. So Camper have led from start to finish. They come round, mark 3, Camper lead. They're on the rather short leg to the finish.
Keeping it clean now, the order for Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand as they barrel down Auckland Harbour, looking for a home win in home waters. And it has to be said, Mark Avell looking good.
Yeah, very good. They overstood a little bit. That didn't harm them at all as they came barreling down. It gives them some nice speed to get the kite up and popping, as it's now breaking the walls and coming out beautifully as the grinders trim on and the headsail comes down, and off they go. And that's compared to the distance from the leeward mark, they have actually stretched out quite nicely.
Yeah, it's a good extension for Camper. Puma, who were third around mark 2, so Puma have got back into second spot. We can see there Groupama, and right on their tail actually Sanya. So Sanya have had a good upwind. So Puma come round. Mark 3, Puma are on the run to the finish, and we'll look for a clean bear-away set onto their A2.
Just see Ken Reid there with that tablet of that little board of buttons there, where he's swinging the keel across in the tack, spinning the wheel and pushing to get that keel swinging from 40 degrees one side to 40 degrees out the other. You could hear the carbon fibre groaning and moaning at the stresses it's being put under. Groupama, well, that's you've got to hand it to Kenny Reid. He's done a terrific job there, and Frank Hamas having to play catch up now. Mark, where do you think Groupama just sort of slipped up there?
Well, just thinking back, it seemed like they just couldn't quite get the main settled. The mainsail was inside out. It was being backwinded by the jib, and that would have really meant that Frank Hamas's helm wasn't settled. The boat wouldn't have been relaxed. And it just takes the connection off from looking out of the boat, looking at your competitors, and certainly people creeping up on your shoulder, and it just makes you look inside the boat, and that's where they lost it.
So Sanya coming round Mark 3. We'll have them in fourth. That's actually, I think Sanya,
that's an amazing performance.
We actually haven't spoken too much about the Sanya team, but they were back, and they've got ahead of Telefonica and this boat. Abu Dhabi had a shocker at Mark 2. So Sanya, which is regarded not to be quite as quick as the other boats, I think Mike Sanderson will be very satisfied with his in-port race here in Auckland.
Well, we've got to remember that we don't expect a lot of it, because it's the second generation boat. It was in the last Volvo Ocean race. It's had a few issues structurally in this race, but he's always said he reckons he could pull out the odd surprise. But talking of a surprise, we just glimpsed Telefonica there. What's it doing in that place? Justin Slattery up on the bow of Abu Dhabi there, just hanging on to that big yellow sail that caused so much trouble earlier on. And Telefonica last. I mean, well, you know, this is the overall race leader, and they've just, I don't know, they've just not been doing it.
Well,
they
had a poor start, and you know, on this in-port race here in Auckland, they really have not been in the game in terms of being up near the leaders. Ika Martinez, they didn't get a great start, and of course these races are so dominated by the start and that first defining moment after you've left the start. We've got Camper jibing. Camper, that could be their last jibe. I think they must be very close on board Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand. Well, I wonder if this will make team boss Grant Dalton. He's been a bit grumpy.
Mr. Grumpy.
Not with the team, because I think the team are doing a hell of a job, and you know, the boat hasn't perhaps been as quick, especially reaching. But I think this would make Dalton pretty happy to see his team put it on, really, here in Auckland.
Well, we talk about the chemistry on board, and what has been said about this crew is that despite all, they have been really tight. And I read an interesting piece by Torben Grail, the great Volvo Ocean Race winner and multiple Olympic gold medalist, and he talked about the chemistry. And on Camper, you can, you know, even if you're not winning, Torben was saying, even if you're not winning, if you know you're performing well within some limitations, then, and they do have limitations on a certain point of sail, then it keeps the bond together. And this now will, I'm sure, light them up. This should be the monkey off the back for the Camper crew. And on the back there it says Camper, and underneath that you can, I happen to know it says life lovers, and they'll be loving life at the moment, that's for sure.
Well, they're not quite on
board
that.
the boat. Well, if they can just get the last stretch, and we know that it ain't over till it ain't over. And but the fat lady must be clearing her throat a bit there, do you think, Mark?
Oh, absolutely. They're just coming across almost as if they want to put that jibe in for the city of Auckland and say thank you as they come round that Hilton Hotel pier there. Prince's Wharf there. I would just comment on what you were saying there, Martin. I was at a conference there last week from the Team New Zealand base, and they just came over so solid. Just a solid, convincing crew, and that's what they're looking to take into the Southern Ocean very soon.
See the action of the canting keel there is swinging across, and always looks a little bit strange from a non-canting keel boat, and across that goes the keel, across goes the Jenica, and there's the harbour bridge in the background beyond the finish line. So this could well be. Was that one and in?
Yeah, that was one and in. For my eye, they're on the ley line, and this will be their first win in this Volvo Ocean Race for Camper. Always, you know, great crew work. They've sailed very well here in Auckland, and is this the springboard they need to actually put a little bit more pressure, if they can, on Telefonica, who are winning, and of course Groupama. It really sets up tomorrow in the start of the leg from out of here tomorrow. It just adds a little bit more intrigue and a little bit more bite, but the Camper team, I'm sure, will be very happy with their performance here in Auckland.
Great shot now, looking out towards, well, that's the Hilton in the background, and Princess Wharf. Somebody's very comfortable yacht, almost like a small ship in the background. Look at the pace they've got on, and they're there. A win for the home team on home waters. Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand flies across the line on Auckland Harbour. The monkeys off the back. Look at the speed it's going at. I mean, that's phenomenal. Applause before there from the guests, Petrobagus and friends on the back of the boat, and what a thrill for them. Maybe they've brought them the good luck, Pete, and they'll be asked to go the whole way around.
I'm sure.
Okay, second place. There's the handshakes just short of the line. Here comes Puma, powered by Berg Propulsion, and talk of propulsion, that thing's flying too. What a great scene this has been for everybody out here on the waters of the Waitemata. So Puma, brilliant second from them. Very, very clever sailing, Mark.
Absolutely. Now there's one more act left in this race, and that is Camper must be willing that Abu Dhabi stay in front of Telefonica, because it just helps those overall point separation as we see Groupama now come down to the finish line.
Well, also that was Puma doing Camper a favour as well, as they come in third behind Puma, and that again will help the points differential with the Kiwi boat. And Frank Camas there on the podium yet again, and other than the little mishap with the main, they'll still sail pretty well. Now the surprise, really, and the most cleverly sailed boat of the day, I think, has got to be Mike Sanderson, the other local lad. He's got 7 Kiwis on board, and here on St Patrick's Day comes Sanya to cross the line in a very creditable 4th spot.
Look, I'm sure the talking point will be Camper, but for me the next big performance is Sanya. We did see a possible port starboard on that first upwind, and that put them trailing the fleet, but they've fought back. And there's Cameron Darney, probably called a few good shots. He's used to sailing on the harbour. But I would think Sanya, Mike Sanderson, they come across to take 4th. And I think that's a very good performance by Sanya. And it just mixes up the point. What's significant with that one, what it does to Telefonica, it actually takes a point away from them.
Well, here's Abu Dhabi, and they are managing to keep distance between Sanya and Telefonica. And it looks like this. There's Craig Satterthwaite on Abu Dhabi, wondering what might have been it. Look at it go. I mean, you can just see flat water, bow out, going like a train as they hurtle across the line in 5th spot. And well, Ian Walker slumped over the wheel just behind the scoreboard there, and he'll be disappointed again. It's a tough time when you're not exactly doing it how you want to do it, and certainly not doing it how they would want to do it. Is Telefonica a very disappointing last place for them? Not a great show by their usual impeccable standards. What do you think went wrong there?
Bad start.
Bad start?
Bad start. They got tangled up in that incident with Sanya, and but I put it down to the start. It's the race was dominated by 1 or 2 key moments, and they weren't in the action.
Okay, so Team Telefonica, they crossed the line last to complete the Auckland In-Port Race from the Volvo Ocean Race here on Auckland Harbour, and it's been a fantastic victory for the home team, and I think we're now going to have a chat with what I've no doubt is a pretty jubilant Chris Nicholson. Chris Nicholson, are you hearing us there?
Yeah, I can hear, man. Hope I didn't say something I shouldn't have.
Chris, the monkey off the back?
Yeah, quite possibly. You know, the one thing we've said all week was, how do we actually thank everyone who's helped and supported us? And I hope this goes a little way to doing that, because it's been a huge week of support for us, and it's helped.
Now, what is it, do you think, that did it for you? I mean, you know, obviously you would have had tactics going into this. Your local knowledge seemed to pay off as you worked the wall. Did it just go according to plan?
It did, but the thing was, you know, this was the plan we were working on in Sanio. Like, you know, we were able to bring Joe and Rod up, our coaches who helped us, you know, get our head back in the game. We didn't prove it then that it was the right thing to do, and I hope today we proved that we've got our comms better, and we did practice start after practice start, and we did enough of them that the right one we stuck at start time. So really happy with the guys. Massive effort. They compressed into us down the bottom mark, and we hung in there and did a really nice day.
Yeah, Chris, top mark, that cross, there was a port starboard, but you look pretty comfortable. I think it was the second cross. It looked to be the big moment to me. You got through there and then you were off.
Right. Yeah, you know, we had good tacks, and the guys are into it, you know, in our grinding, in our whole effort today. Like, it's something to be very proud of.
Ken Reid is waiting for us as well, and but in the meantime, Chris Nicholson, congratulations. It's a great win for you. We've enjoyed watching it. You seem to be, as we were saying, a very tight team. This just brings you closer together.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we've been after this for a long time. Now we'll flick the switch, and we want this on the next leg.
Okay, well, we look forward to the start of that one tomorrow. Chris Nicholson, congratulations, well done, and we move across now to Kenny Reid. And Kenny, that was a stunning race to watch, because well, you were you were fighting the whole way.
Well, we don't know how to make it easy, Martin. We're pretty good at making it tight, and you know what? We're comfortable in the tight situations. We were very happy in how we got out and squeezed by Group Ama there. Congrats to the camper guys. They sailed very well and deserved the win.
Now, what about the sort of conditions you had to face? Was it what you expected?
Yeah, it's exactly what we expected. Tight quarters, you know, the nice little tide relief up the right-hand shoreline. The camper got first, and essentially they got the first cross, and that was the race. But yeah, it was tight. Physical. The boys are still huffing and puffing right now, I can tell you that. This is a good day to be a homesman, I can tell you that. It's a little...
Now, looking at just look around you at the moment. I mean, you've sailed here a lot. What do you think of this scene?
Beyond phenomenal. You know, we always expected a lot of support here in Auckland, but I think the way people have turned out is you know, nothing short of spectacular. It must be half the country here, right? What's the population of this country?
It's not that small, Ken.
Oh, really? Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to piss anybody off. Sorry about that.
Now, there's a heap of people out there, and they've enjoyed watching you. Thanks very much indeed. Congratulations on second. We're shifting back to camper. The red flag's going up, and I think the champagne's going to be popping out. I don't think it's date champagne this time. Here it goes. Chris Nicholson with the bottle there, and away it goes, and it will never have tasted sweeter. Okay, that's a bit of work. Going to be a bit of work for Hamish Hooper having to clean his cameras. Okay, so I think we might possibly be able to have a little look as we fly around the Sky Tower and look back. Let's have a look and see where the scoreboard is. Well, this is the result of the race. A very handy 6 points there for Chris Nicholson. Ken Reid with Puma Ocean Racing, well, he gets the 5, and then Frank Camas, they'll be looking very nicely now on the overall board. But the significant thing for both Camper with Emmett's Team New Zealand and the Group Ama sailing team is that Ika Martinez is at the bottom of that table. Still at the top, but look how everything's narrowed down a little bit more. And that shows how important these in-port races are, because Peter, in the final wash-up here, I mean, these are 20% of the points in this 9-month-long round the world marathon.
Oh, well, in time percentage, because these races are only, what, an hour, it's a big deal. They're valuable points. and we just look out over the harbour, and it just looks magnificent. But again, Auckland has turned it on, Martin. Waitemata Harbour, beautiful, and it's been a very good in-port race.
Bit of old technology on the waterfront there. Okay, we're going to go and have a little look back at the start, because as we've been saying all along in these in-port races, particularly here, the start, all important. Peter?
Yeah, it was a good start by Puma. They were right on the line. Camper were a little bit late, but they had enough room up there at the committee boat. They came in with a bit more speed, and that meant that Camper prevented Puma from tacking first. And we saw, as Nicholson came around the bow of the committee boat, it was Camper that actually hit the wall first. They got over towards the Hilton Hotel. They got the tidal relief. And my word, at that first cross, is so often the case, win the first cross, often you win the race.
Well, this was Puma first across the line. But as you were saying, the lovely position by Camper to get in by that wall. And but there was a fair old battle going on behind, Pete.
Yeah, there was. There was an absolute battle behind. There wasn't a lot of room at that committee boat. We could see Groupama were pretty far back, and they made a good comeback. Camper, although were Camper and Sanya were the two boats that really got that tidal relief, and I think that was a big telling point.
Well, in many ways, this was the race done. There's Camper up at the front. They are, as we say, working the wall, and I think we're going to go now to a no doubt absolutely ecstatic Tony Ray, and a real veteran of ocean racing here in Auckland. Tony Ray, give us your feelings about winning on home waters in a race like this in a Volvo 70 on Auckland Harbour.
Oh, I guess, Martin, it was a picture-perfect day for us. We've been sort of, training a lot and going through a lot of different starting procedures and stuff with Joe and Rod and Sanya and what have you, as you know, and it was just great to actually pull it off today. It was, it couldn't have asked for a better start from Nico, and at pace, and we sort of got the right way. And then once you get out in front on a course like this, you just have to consolidate, and we knew which way around the track we wanted to go. So it was just a great day for Auckland, just having that breeze up and down the harbour like this, and great to have a win with all our supporters here.
What does it do for the team, this?
Well, firstly, what it does for the team is it gives us a lot more points, and that's the most important thing for us, is to start getting more points on the board and clawing our way back up to the top. So that's the most important. But I think it's obviously a great boost for us to go into this next leg, and I know Dolts will be happy with us now. Well, a lot more happy with us after our starts yesterday and some of the previous ones. So. In our races, so that'll keep them off our back for a little bit anyway. But no, fantastic, and just thanks to Auckland for such great support. It means a lot.
Thanks to you as well, Tony Ray. Thanks for talking to us, and get a good kit before it starts off again tomorrow, and look after your ribs.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, thanks for that.
Okay, well, I think we're coming to the end of this broadcast here now from Auckland, from the in-port race. Peter, a very quick summing up from you.
Great race, beautiful conditions. I mean, you couldn't dial up better to have an easterly for the in-port race. And again, big raps on the performance of Camper. And I think we might look back, is this the fuse that can light Camper up for the next leg?
Well, the question is, does the fuse get lit tomorrow? From Peter Lester and from Mark Cavell out on the water. We hope you've enjoyed this. Certainly the guys on Camper will have enjoyed it enormously. I mean, this has been a home win on home waters for Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand. There's the winning boat, and the question is, have they got the monkey off their back? It certainly looks like they might have done. From Auckland, the city of sails, goodbye, haere ra, and we look forward to you joining us again for the start tomorrow.